Are we live? Can people hear us?
Woo!
Hello and welcome to MarsCon and to our wonderful Apocalypse Crafting panel. I'm Naomi Kritzer. I'm a science fiction and fantasy writer from St. Paul, Minnesota. And during the pandemic, I took up landscape embroidery. Would my lovely panelists like to introduce themselves? Hadar, go.
Hi, I'm Hadar Copley-Woods. I am a science fiction and fantasy writer who publishes very, very seldom lately, and a nonfiction writer. And I write the advice column, The Gentle Butch. And I took up, I was saying before we started, that I took up crafting during the pandemic because I'm such an extrovert that I felt like I completely lost my personality. And my therapist agreed with me that I was extra specially crazy, like super duper crazy. And she thought that doing something that involved using my right hand and my left hand would be a good movement for my PTSD. And so I initially did it. A lot of people pick up crafting because they want to make cool things. And then they discover it makes them less crazy. And I discovered it made me less crazy first. And then I started just getting really into what I was producing. And yeah, I guess I'll save the rest for when we're talking. I'll pick the next person. How about that? Lyda.
Oh, cool.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Hadar. I'm Lyda Morehouse. I'm a science fiction writer, fantasy writer as well, also in St. Paul. I also write as Tate Halloway. I write paranormal romances as Tate Halloway. And I picked up quilting just before the pandemic started, and then kind of got really into it. My cat is sitting on the quilt I'm going to show off hopefully later. But yeah, again, it was something to just sort of do with my hands because I too am an extrovert and found myself with way too much energy. I did a lot of gardening during those first months too, because it was still nice out, just to get outside. So there you go. I will also pick next. We'll go what is down to me to Shari, S.N. Arley.
All right. Hi, I'm Shari. I write as S.N. Arley. I primarily write young adult fantasy. I'm also in the St. Paul area. And because my hands don't like to do repetitive stuff, most of the crafting I've been doing has been teaching other people crafting stuff that I know, or cooking type crafting stuff. So I've been teaching Girl Scouts, I've been teaching my kids and supporting them in crafting. So it's less me doing it because my hands don't do things like that and still work. So, Isabel?
Hi, I'm Isabel Schechter. I have been making masks, face coverings for COVID. I started doing them just because I have 4,000 pounds of fabric, and that was something that I could do to help. And so I made a ton of masks, and I was just donating them left and right. I started out with people I knew, like the staff at my library. I'm part of the Friends of the Library. And so those were the first people I was like, okay, who needs masks? Here, take 6 of them. So I gave them a bunch. I gave different community groups them. I gave Mom and Me masks for kids, like whatever. And then I would post pictures of the masks because I had these cool fabrics, and I was like, oh, look how cool these are. And then other people would send me more fabric. And then I was like, oh, well, I guess I'll make more masks. And the more I made them, the better the experience and the masks got. So that's mostly what I've been doing, and I've been having a great time with it. I think we got everybody.
Yeah. So yeah. One of the things that struck me listening to people talk about this were the sort of the community aspects of some of the stuff that we've been doing. Both in terms of Isabel making masks for her community, and also Shari, teaching things. And like the sourdough fad was one of the things that Lida brought up in the Zoom, or in the Zoom chat. So let's talk about that. Like were there aspects of your crafting that like really heavily related to the community that you're in? Hadar's nodding. I'm going to have Hadar start again.
Okay. Well, one of the things that it did for me was that I now had cool gifts to give people that I had made. And that, I mean, everyone loves a handmade gift that someone has made them. Maybe I should share my screen and show a few of the gifts.
Yeah, why don't you show some stuff? Show and tell.
Yeah. Okay. Can you guys see my screen? So the other thing that happened during the pandemic for me was that I got so excited about crafting. I just wanted to learn every kind that I could. So I took up some sewing, and then I also did some knitting, which I'm doing right now actually on something. And I thought it might be cool to combine them. And so I made my partner this purse. And there's sewing in it. And then there's also an I cord for those of you who know knitting, a 4-line I cord. I made my kids some fleece line mittens. And that also combined a little bit of sewing and knitting. I made my niece a little hat with a bulldog on it. She really loves bulldogs. And apparently she was over the moon with this dumb little hat, which I was excited about. And this combined embroidery with knitting. And the trick is you get thin tracing paper, and you do the pattern, and then you put it on the knitting, and you do it right into the tracing paper so that it has a good background and it doesn't get all lost in the various parts of the stitches. I just made a rug crocheting. That's not a gift for anyone. I'm going to whip through some and show them later. These were gifts. This is the first thing I ever embroidered. And it says, "Thank you for not dying." It's for my friend who had surgery that was life-threatening, and she didn't die, and I was super appreciative. So I sent her that. And she's a fellow writer, and she's a science fiction and fantasy editor and fellow queer. And she lives on the other side of the country from me. And so that felt really, really connecting. And I made her laugh, and I made her feel good. And then this is for my partner's sister. She loves to call herself a bitch. And she says it stands for babe in total control of herself. So that's what this stands for. And you can see that I kind of got a little more flowery. And then this is for my partner's mom, which is just fancy as fuck, and I'm super proud of. And it used a bunch of different details. And I learned how to do all of this stuff on YouTube. So I'm going to stop sharing. I can talk about making my pets and myself stuff later. But and so for me, it was connecting with individuals. And then I also had friends who crafted me things like, it's not right nearby, but a friend of mine made a big patch for the Gentle Butch that I'm going to sew on something. And, even if you can't take the time that you used to sit and talk to your friends, they know that you were thinking of them for a really long time while you were working. And I think that's pretty great. So I'm done talking now.
Yeah, Shari, you want to talk about teaching?
Sure. So I'd actually been doing sourdough for a couple of years, and so that was the first thing I started teaching. I've had a very poorly maintained food blog over on Tumblr that was kind of a half-assed thing. And I decided, I had several friends who were like, "Oh, I need to do sourdough. How do I do sourdough?" And so I decided I should make videos, and I posted it on my SNRly YouTube. A good thing at the time, but then eventually I decided I had so many food videos, they needed to go to their own channel. where I'm the crazy food lady. And I started with instructional videos for sourdough because I had several friends who were like, how do I do it? How do I know that it looks right? Can I send you pictures? And I did. I had friends sending me pictures. I've split my sourdough into many, many offspring and sent them out to anybody who wanted them. There was a point when I had 8 of them in the kitchen at one time, waiting for people to either be ready to pick them up or for us to drop them off. So, you know, it was nice to be able to help my friends out, help, you know, people who wanted to learn how to do this, who were like, okay, I need to make bread, and sourdough seems to be the only thing I can do because there's no yeast, so how do I do this? And it felt really good for me. I think gifts of service is kind of my love language. I like to do things for people. It's what makes me feel valuable. So, you know, being able to teach people how to do this, and, you know, several of them were successful. There were a couple people who, like my sister, she left her sourdough unsupervised on the counter for too long and it went badly. It grew and spread all over the counter, but no, ooh, that's going down the drain. Not for everybody. But that felt really nice. And I've been, this is my 8th year as a Girl Scout leader, which was also not something I ever expected I would be. But our girls they're as starved for social time as the rest of us. And a lot of them are getting, you know, screen time restrictions still imposed on them because screens are bad. And so Girl Scouting is a way that they're able to socialize. So we actually get together 4 times a month, twice for social stuff and twice for meetings. And it's been nice to be able to, they're like, okay, we want to do this thing. Okay, we will teach you how to do this thing. Okay, that thing we can't teach over the camera. That's not going to work because I'm going to need to be able to put my fingers on your project. But we've been able to do some things that way, and it's been really nice. Again, because it makes me feel good to give something, whether that's an object or knowledge. Really, knowledge is a really important thing. So I feel very, very good about being able to give that knowledge to people. So. I gave Kira a sourdough starter?
No. Lida gave Kira a sourdough starter.
Okay.
I did.
Cool.
Yeah, I did. Although, well, my sourdough all failed miserably. Turns out I'm a yeast queen, I can't do sourdough. And I ritualistically, when I gave up on my sourdough, dumped it into the compost pile. So I felt pretty cool about that. It was very witchy. But I was actually to go kind of last. So
yeah, I was gonna ask Isabel to talk more about masks, and because
excellent, do that, and then come back to me.
I was thinking because, like, you know, of course, in my Facebook memories, I'm seeing like a year ago today. Like, I went looking to see when it was that I had a friend make me a mask, actually, because I'm no good at sewing, and that is not something that I guess embroidery is sewing, but like I'm not good at like constructive sewing. So like, but I have a friend who's a former professional costumer, and I asked if she would be willing to make some masks for my family, and she very, very kindly made us all masks. So that was and that was in April. But I remember sort of the transition went like, you know, stop buying masks, leave the masks for the people who need them. Oh God, we're completely out of masks. What if we made masks for doctors? Oh, actually, maybe we should just make them for ourselves. And so like, I'm curious, Isabel, if you want to talk about sort of where in that cycle you got involved, and if you have any pictures you want to show, please do.
Oh yeah, I have definitely pictures. So when this whole thing first started, so I'm in a high risk category, and so I completely went into quarantine. March 7th was my last day out into the world as a real person, and so I've been pretty terrified for the past year. And that isn't just about me, that then, like, if I know that I'm in that much danger, other people are in that much danger too. And so that's been terrifying. And like, as I see, not just in the news, because, that's kind of in the background at this point, but when your friends start getting sick or when their parents start getting sick, all of a sudden, and it's not even 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, right? It's like 2 degrees of your neighbor. It really starts to freak you out. And to, I was just nervous and freaking out about everybody I knew. And so that was one of the things I think that originally, well, first it was the hospitals needing the masks, right? So that was something that I knew I could do, that I could help and donate them to whoever needed them. And then I started thinking about all the people in my life. And it was like, oh my God, I have to get a mask to everybody I know, because I didn't know if they could get masks where they were. And so I started making all these masks. And it was both a way for me to feel like I could do something just to the greater good, just people having masks, whoever they might be, just please take my masks. But it was also a way to be connected to people. The convention, this past convention year has been terrible. Like, there are people that I haven't seen since last year's convention. And so by the time I see them again, it's going to be 2 years, not just 1 year. It's usually 1 year in between conventions. And for all that, you only see them at conventions. The fact is, some of these people are like my deepest friends, and we see each other, on Facebook, or we talk on the phone, but able to giggle all night in the hotel lobby, over, junk food and whatever. It's not the same, but you do what you can. And so I got some of these cool fabrics, and I was like, oh my God, this friend would love this fabric, and that friend would love that fabric, and my family, and it became like not just a thing, but I was able to turn it into something that was a little more fun, and it was less terrifying for the people I gave masks to. Because the cuter the mask, I've seen that the lower the stress. And so I've been working really hard to make cute masks. So I'm going to go ahead and just share my screen right now. Okay, so this is a bunch of the different masks I've made. As I've been making the masks, I've been getting better at them. So these two at the top, the astronaut and the planets, they've got the flat bottoms on them. And those were the first set that I made. And they're good. But then I learned about, as you wear them, you realize that the chin, it needs to come down more, otherwise the things start sliding up. So then I make things like this one, this little steampunky one, and this purple and pink flower.
They're gorgeous.
Thank you. So I made those. These guys were the first ones that I made, like for hospitals and whoever. I had a lot of fun making kids ones. So here is Animaniacs, which apparently is this thing that's like all back and everybody's like so excited about it. I never watched it. I don't know. Here's Supergirl. And then just a whole bunch of different things. I made, let me see. Can you see that? The blue. Let's see. I don't know if I'm sharing all the different screens or if I have to share each one at a time.
You're still on the first screen.
I'm still on the first. Okay, so let me go back. Oops. Okay. New share. Okay.
It's kind of funny that Daisy pattern, one of those masks from our very first set of masks made by a friend, had the same print. That's just
yes. Yeah, I have that one both in the blue background and in the pink background. So very versatile. One of the things that I've done is for giving back to the community is every convention that's had a charity auction, I've donated masks to. And then these are actually a set that I donated to my synagogue. They're doing a charity event. And so these come in a fancy little pouch that I made. Ooh. So yeah, so that's going to be some nice little package that they made. And then let me show you this one. Ooh. Okay. This was a lot of fun. This is not a mask, but once I got the sewing bug back, I donated this, which is a challah cover, and then it's got a set of 8 matching napkins. Challah not included. But I saw this fabric and I loved it. So that was fun. But that's been one of the nice things about this whole process. Like I started out freaking out, and then it has moved into actually helping my mental health because it distracts me from the freaking out, right? I concentrate on like, ooh, what patterns can I match? And ooh, who can I, who's going to win this donation of masks? And so that's been really helping me feel connected to people, or feel like these masks are making a difference, or just something to let me know that what I'm doing matters.
In July, I was at a farm stand in the suburbs to buy, watermelon or something like that. And there was a lady next to me in line who was wearing a Doctor Who mask. It had like the TARDIS print. And I was like, oh, I like your mask, in sort of a like geek to geek way. And she recognized that it was like a geek solidarity moment. But the lady at the farm stand saw it as a mask solidarity moment. And she told us how much she appreciated us wearing masks, because a lot of people didn't, because they were like, oh, we're outside, it doesn't matter. But of course, people were getting really close to her.
Yeah.
And, she really preferred it when people were wearing masks, but, she didn't have the authority to refuse to serve them if they weren't. So it was, it was an interesting interaction, because it was like, it's sort of like, yeah, anyway.
Yeah, I had actually something like that today on Twitter. One of my friends was posting about how, whatever happens with this vaccine or whatever happens with the world, next year she's still going to wear a mask to conventions because there's so many people. And I wrote back, I said, I already have a full wardrobe of masks planned. Right? I have not just one, but 2 Doctor Who patterns that I will be making. Yeah, I have Doctor Who. I have Don't Blink. Like just seeing the fabric, it freaks me out. Like I have it underneath other fabrics, so I won't accidentally see it, right? So I have Don't Blink, and then I have the Exploding TARDIS, the Vincent Van Gogh one. And then I have the astronaut and the planets that I showed earlier. And then I have some other stuff. Oh, and another Doctor Who one. And I've got a whole bunch of stuff. So I'm ready. I'm prepared.
I've been finding fellow geeks and queers all around town based on their face masks, and I really like that. Like I now know that my checkout person at the co-op is super into Steven Universe, and and then when I told her I liked it, then she just pulled out all this other Steven Universe stuff that she'd had behind the counter. And people wear geeky t-shirts, but your mask is just like right there. And this is getting a bit afield, but I feel like it's another way of having community is by seeing what we've made for ourselves or for each other, kind of advertising who we are.
Yeah. Lida, did you want to talk about your sourdough or?
No, I'm done with my sourdough in so many ways. No, I was just going to talk about community stuff that I've done. And it's not entirely craft related. Although I have sent a couple of quilts to friends that I started and finished, just because I was showing them off, and somebody's like, "Oh, no one's ever made me one." I'm like, if you don't mind stitches because I just learned to sew for the pandemic. So if you don't mind stitches that literally don't match, actually, this one went to my friend Rachel in California, and I actually had to confess that I finished it up while drinking on Christmas, and so there's one drunken hem that literally just like folds in on itself. And I was like, I'm sorry, I don't redo things, so you get the drunken hem. That's just how it is. But the other thing I've been doing to sort of, I was thinking a lot about what Isabel said about like the people you don't see for like a whole year. And I started to really, because I am such an extrovert, I really started to miss those people that you just kind of have tenuous, don't get to see them very often relationships with. And so I just put out a call on Facebook and said, who wants a weekly postcard from me? And I started doing a fictitious world tour where I just pretend that I'm traveling, because that hits two of my pandemic needs. I want to get out of here, and it connects me to my friends. And so a lot of last year, I think I started in the middle, I just started traveling to places that I had postcards from around the house. And actually Naomi some time ago had picked me up some really lovely ones from Japan. So I started in Japan and just been sending things away. And now that it's been a full year, I am now also including fantasy lands and planets, because why not? At this point, it's a fantasy tour, so it can include other worlds as well. So that's been something I've been doing that's been fun. And I would show you stuff off, but my cat is still sleeping, so I'm not going to bother showing anything off since we're running out of time. Here's my wife's rug. She made this.
Can you push it closer so that we can see like the weave?
This is made on a loom that we have in our basement that I inherited from my grandmother. It is a standing loom that's as tall as I am. It's 5 foot something, and it's about the same length, and Sean has to sit at it and pull like full thing back. And so this is the size of the rug, but the loom is like twice as large.
Wow.
So it's really, and we had to restring it this summer. It was intense, but it was fun. So that's me. I'm all done now.
Okay. I'm just trying to figure out what I should ask about next. I wanted to tell people that I started doing embroidery because of Zoom calls, because I absolutely desperately needed something to do with my hands during Zoom calls that didn't involve my phone, because as long as I was doing something that didn't use the language centers of my brain, I was still like listening well. But I do, I just want to show these off quick. Landscape embroidery. And they're just like a million little tiny circles. And
Oh,
Those are beautiful.
they are.
and I post them all on Twitter. So I have a thread.
Naomi, we didn't get to see those long enough.
Okay.
Back.
Fine. All right.
Do you make up the
This
scenery?
was my very first. Yeah, some of these I used a photo that I worked from, like when I did Mount Fuji, I worked from a photo of Mount Fuji. But a lot of these, I just start with like,
Wow.
I want to do water and a sunset. And this one, I really liked how the water turned out, but I wasn't happy with the sunset.
You have to show off the Mars one.
Okay, so I did 2 Marscapes. This is the one that I thought was better. It has a rover in it.
Oh.
There's the rover coming down.
I love it.
But show off the other one too. I like the other one.
This was the first Marscape I did. It's too red. It's too bright, but also has a rover in it.
But we're seeing new photos, and it isn't.
Oh, well, okay. And then this one, so one of the things that I used some wool roving to do a 3-dimensional cloud for this one. Because my inspiration for some of these, there are these amazing artists that do embroidery, including a Russian woman who does landscape embroidery. And then there's an artist who does these, this is an aerial view of a farm and, forest. So, but the Russian artist uses some stuff that does three-dimensional stuff in her in her embroideries. And I was like, this is so cool. I want to try this. And I try not to look at her stuff too often because mine is really not as good as hers. Like, I'm happy with my stuff until I look at hers, and then I'm like, man,
compare and
Hers is
despair.
so cool. Yeah, no, it's really true. Like you just the thing is that I am really happy with these. I really like looking at them. I feel like they're cool. And it's fine if they're not as good as the Russian lady who sells her stuff for $500. I mean, she's like a really brilliant and respected artist. So it's sort of like taking up painting and saying, man, I'm not as good as Van Gogh. So,
You could do drunken hemming like I do. It's all fine when you're.
yeah. Usually it's early enough in the day that it would be.
I mean,
I guess it's 5 o'clock somewhere always, but
Yeah. And it's the pandemic.
brings up-
Time is totally not a thing.
Yeah.
I think this brings up a really good point, though, about some of what we were talking about, what is coded as art and what is craft. What's women's work versus, when women do it, it's a craft. When men do it, it's a maker culture. And this whole notion of what do we value? Do we value art? What kind of art do we value? If it's not something that you can sell, is it worthwhile? If it's not something that you can sell for Russian lady prices, is it real art? Right?
Yeah.
And so there's this whole judgment. And I catch myself doing it, right? Like I showed you the pictures of the masks and I'm like, well, these first ones I made weren't very good. But I'm actually not down on myself. Like in the beginning, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I gave people those masks. They were terrible. I hope they weren't laughing at me or pitying me. And now I'm like, you know what? They knew that I love them. They knew that it might not have been the greatest mask, but it was me showing them that I love them. And at that time, nobody had masks, right? So whatever you can get. And yeah, I still, sometimes my stitches are uneven and I'm not even drunk and they look drunk, right? But I'm not judging myself. I'm just, it's art. So what if it's not Russian lady art?
Can I build on that? Because one of the things that I've done in the pandemic is take a lot of classes, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because everybody's offering the free, $11 Domestika class. So one of the things I decided to do was make a cartoon about my cat. And so this is a little book that's a fill-in thing, and I've been drawing goofy pictures of my cat.
I love these.
Those are awesome.
These are your drawings?
Yes, these are all my drawings. Yeah.
Are you trained?
No.
They're so good.
The thing is, okay, so I've been doodling since I was small, and I did take a lot of. Okay, so I had one of those jobs where they let you take classes. I worked at the University of Minnesota, and I could take classes for free back in the 90s because I'm old, and they still gave that away. And I took all the studio arts classes, all of them, all of them. So I mean, technically I am trained. I mean, this is just silliness. And then I decided that, just like what Isabel was talking about, art is in the eye of the beholder in a real sense. And for me, this isn't it makes me smile to draw my stupid cat. She's sleeping right here. This is literally her, and I just draw this outline of the cat, and that way it's easy. It doesn't have to actually look like a cat. It just has to have ears and eyes because that's all you can see of her. So it's been fun.
I have to say, one of the things about this being considered women's work, and also about it, whether it's art or not, one of the things that I've really loved about all this crafting is that it's just covered in girl cooties, and I just want to just get myself all up in the girl cooties, and I when I'm knitting, I feel really, really close to my grandmother, who taught me how to knit when I was really little. I forgot how to do it, but learned later. And she and I did not have the closest relationship toward the end there. And so it's nice to have something like that. And then, all my YouTube stuff, all of the people teaching embroidery stitches, there are all of these women from all over the world actually teaching stitches. And I get to hear them sharing their knowledge, and I feel connected to them. And I really I was surprised by how important that was to me, to be doing this work that you can still hold on to. I mean, I've done plenty of women's work, but it's usually raising kids and cleaning things and cleaning. So, so it was amazing to me. Oh, we just got the 15-minute warning.
That's plenty of time, don't we?
How connected I felt just to women in general. And it's problematic that our work is not particularly appreciated if it's something that women have done. But it's also wonderful to feel that kind of sisterhood when I'm home going crazy, not being able to see my friends during an epidemic. So
there are Facebook groups where I've been buying fabric. This is one of the questions that Naomi had asked to the panelists via email. You know, where are we getting our supplies since none of us can leave? So I've been buying fabric on Facebook, and there's a ton of different Facebook groups. People that want to sell fabric, people that want to buy fabric, people that, you know, whatever. There's one group for people who are making masks. And some of the people are there because they're selling masks. And some people are there just because, you know, they're donating masks and whatever, but they're there for inspiration. So people post their pictures and other people are like, ooh, that's cool. Or they'll see a mask somewhere and they'll like that fit better. And so they'll post a picture of it and say, which pattern is this? I want to make this one. Does anybody know what this is called? You know, where can I get this template? And, you know, oh, look, I got this really cool fabric. And it's just all these women encouraging each other and sharing with each other and inspiring each other. And it's just such a wonderful group. It's been really nice to be part of a community like that.
Yeah, in fact, we just got some fabric for one of my quilts. I'm doing a crazy quilt that's just a bunch of fabric stuck together due to one of those neighborhood giveaways where somebody's like, hey, I've got some fabric. And it's actually somebody in the con scene who, when we started talking, we were like, oh, we know each other from con. How cool is that? So, and it turns out they live really close to us. It was one of those neighborhood groups. So that was a nice, you know, pandemic connection. We had they left it on their thing. We ran up and got it. We've been doing a bunch of things like that. So that's been fun too.
I just wanted to note that posting my artwork to Twitter was beneficial to me because two different friends gave me embroidery floss that have been sitting in their closet. But also, I just wanted to note that while like Wish is sort of synonymous with weird crap for a lot of people, the crafting supplies take forever to come but are reasonable quality, and I bought this enormous bag of embroidery floss off of Wish. So, yeah. One of the questions I was going to throw out is what advice you would give to somebody who is interested in trying the stuff that you've been talking about doing today. My advice to somebody who wanted to try embroidery is just, you know, buy yourself some supplies and jump into it. It's really not that hard. I mean, and the supplies are fairly cheap. Like they're not, you know, you can buy a whole bunch of like off-brand embroidery floss for not a ton of money and just play with it and see if you like what you're doing.
I have to say, I have found embroidery, despite its reputation in my own mind as like an aristocratic lady thing, I've found it to be the single cheapest craft that I do. And I would like to piggyback on that for embroidery, Naomi, that it's really fun to see what you can do. And then it's also amazing to go on YouTube and like just Google embroider a ladybug or something. And then you can learn these techniques that you may or may not have come up, you know, by yourself. But I have learned almost everything from just searching on YouTube.
Have you seen the embroidery library?
I'm not sure.
It's somewhere. I'd have to look and see if I can find the link. And it walks you through each, like if you want to make this flower, you start here, then you do this, and it's pictures, and somebody's collected this huge collection of how do you do all these various, you know, do you want to make roses, you know, little tiny roses? How do you make those little tiny roses? I saw it somewhere. Someone was sharing it again because a lot of people were getting into crafting because what are you going to do when you're sitting at home? And they're like, oh, you should use this. It's a great resource. Yeah, it was cool to see.
What I always say whenever anybody asks me anything about where do I start, the library.
Of
It
course.
is free, right? Your tax dollars pay for it, but it's the best thing ever, right? You go and they give you stuff and they let you take it home. Like, it's amazing, right? And so you can check out, 10 books on how to embroider or how to sew or how to, whatever it is, how to make gifts, right? You want to make little purses? Here's some patterns. Like, they come with patterns even, and they tell you how to adjust the patterns, and they have beautiful pictures of each step. And, whatever it is, you want to make sourdough? Here's 73,000 recipes for sourdough, right? Like, I always tell people that's the absolute first thing that I do is go to the library. It is there for you. Take advantage. There's also videos. It's not just books, right? There's books, there's videos, there's all sorts of stuff. So first, go to the library. The second is, like a couple of you have already said, YouTube. That's also free. I still don't understand how YouTube functions. But, I don't ask questions on this stuff, right? That's like some technical thing that's beyond me. But yeah, YouTube, that's where I got some of my ideas for masks. And like, I tried a couple different patterns and, there's all sorts of stuff on the internet. So that's the second. The third thing is asking about supplies, coupons, right? You don't want to make a big investment. And, if you don't want to make a big investment in something you don't know that is going to work for you for whatever reason, maybe you're just not capable. Maybe you realize, it's not for me, whatever, right? Joann's, I don't know what you have in your neighborhood, but Joann Fabrics has 100 million coupons every week, right? I don't know anybody that pays retail price at Joann ever. And so just wait, and there will be a 40% off coupon or a 20% off coupon or a something. There's always a coupon. So wait for that coupon, go get whatever it is that you need, try it out. And if you like it, then just wait for the next coupon and go buy more with that coupon. Right? And that's where you start. You read the books, and I'm not like I need to see it physically, but the books are a really good place to start, because if you can get it from a book, if you can understand it from the book, then it should be easier for you when you're actually doing it in your hands. If you can't get it from the book, that doesn't necessarily mean you won't get it when it's tactile. But it's a good place to start, even just for theory, right? How does this kind of stuff happen? What does garment construction mean? Like, when you attach a sleeve to a shirt, why do you do it that way? What is the function of that? Or what functionality does that give you? Or, whatever it is. But yeah, absolutely. First thing, always I tell people, go to the library, start there. Start with free, and if that doesn't work, then go to cheap.
And meanwhile, I was just going to say, just start, because I'm lucky enough that my wife is also a crafter, and so we just have stuff around the house. And so I said to her when I wanted to start quilting, where's the fabric? How do I sew? Show me a simple thing. And she was like, okay. And I literally had never picked up a needle and thread before in my life. And I put together, I'm going to dump you, Kat. I want to show these people this. Get off, get off, get off. Oh, she's so annoying. So I started, and you can hardly see it, because this is it's a velvet quilt, and velvet's supposedly really hard to start with, but I just decided to just go. Look, I had a big orange piece, y'all. I just started, and I just started putting pieces together. And in fact, I remember one time when I just started this, I was like, well, it's sort of like the drunken stitches. I'm like, well, these aren't even at all. Which is also why I started this one, because this one's a crazy quilt that literally is just pieces stuck together of any size that I have around. And this one is a good example. That's not straight, y'all. That's not straight at all. I don't care. And you know what? I'm making it for myself and possibly for somebody else. But yeah, I absolutely agree. Libraries are a great place to start, but don't be afraid to just do it too. To just, get started. And then you go to YouTube sometimes too. It depends on who you are, right? Sometimes you have to start with a book because that's who you are. Sometimes you just need to do it and then go to the book. And some people need to study for a month and then do it. And that's all okay. However you get it done is how I feel. Especially during this time, I give myself so much grace, as they're always saying, give yourself some grace. I give myself all of that, all of it.
Lida, if you want, I can send you a ton of scraps. I've been saving these scraps because I know there's a quilter in my life. I know there's a quilter somewhere in my life.
I'll take anything. Do you see this?
Okay.
I'll literally take anything.
All right, we'll talk offline. But see, this is exactly what we were talking about earlier, right? Community. Like, I save these things not because I'm like a pack rat, right? I'm running out of space with fabric, right? But I knew one day I would find a quilter, and now I found one, right? And so this is part of the power of the community.
I'm going to piggyback on Lida's, and first I'm going to point out that my great grandma used to make quilts, and they lived on the farm in North Dakota, maybe, and then northern Minnesota. And you are making farm quilts. That's what her quilts look like. I have quilts like that on my kid's bed that she made, and they look like that. And those are perfect and lovely and very warm. So, and I'm also don't worry too much about the rules. If you're interested in trying something, try it. If you can find if the volume of material out there is intimidating, I know several people who are like, there's so much crap out there about sourdough. Where do I even start? And it's so persnickety. And I'm like, I'm totally a sourdough barbarian. And no, it lives in my refrigerator, and I take it out the evening before I'm going to use it. And I bully it, and I don't treat it nicely, and I don't do all the things that the experts tell me to do. And my sourdough turns out very nicely. Because those other things that you have to do, you don't have to do. They're somebody decided that they wanted to do them, and someone decided they're a rule now. And in a lot of these cases they were men, actually, and I'm not sure if that's just a pattern or if it's a legitimate thing, but I'm just noticing this now. But so I'm like, just try it. Find a way to make it work for you if it's something you really want to try. And, maybe some of those rules that people are saying are, set in stone aren't. Find a way to make it work for you. So
thank you all so much for coming tonight. Thank you to my panelists, and thank you to our audience. MarsCon is happening online all weekend with events on YouTube, Discord, Twitch, and Zoom. More details may be found at marscon.org. You could check out the charity auction. While you're there, you can check out, several of us have readings. Lida's, I think, started 15 minutes ago, because one of the wonderful things about online stuff like this is they can literally schedule you against yourself. I also have one tomorrow evening, I think, which is like Lida's. It's not live, it's recorded. So
I have tomorrow as well.
And Shari. Let's see. Buy some Girl Scout cookies.
Oh, yes.
And hope to see you all in person in a year.
No, less than a year.
Or less than a year at another con. But at MarsCon, next year's MarsCon will be live and in person.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think we've got less than a minute left, so we pretty much bullseyed it. But thank you all.